I'm Feline Zuamgassen, and in this video we'll be looking at the threats posed by invasive species. Invasive species are species that have been brought into new regions by humans and which have devastating impacts when they establish and spread. Not all species that are introduced are invasive. In fact, a relatively small subset actually go on to have these damaging impacts. The vast majority we would just term non-native or alien and have very little impact indeed on their new ecosystem. Impacts include predation on native species, competition with native species, altering the structure of ecosystems, and transmitting diseases. There are three things that distinguish invasive species from other non-native species. These are a good dispersal ability, a fast reproductive rate, and an ability to tolerate a wide range of environmental factors. You may be familiar with many invasive species, not only from the news, but from your own gardens or garden centres. A large number of invasive species have invaded following escape from ponds or gardens. For example, in the UK, rhododendron escaped from gardens and is now found widely throughout Wales and Scotland in heathlands and woodlands, where it dramatically alters the ecosystem and shades out native plants. Japanese knotweed, which you've seen if you've ever travelled through Europe by train, escaped from gardens into the wild following its introduction from Japan by enthusiastic Victorian botanists in the late 1800s. Japanese knotweed can cause significant economic damage because it's capable of growing up through concrete and asphalt. Imagine the economic damage that can cause to valuable infrastructure. Before the risks of introducing new species were completely understood, people used to regularly introduce species to new lands. For example, deer, which threaten many native plants in New Zealand, were deliberately introduced by European settlers seeking to make their new country seem more like home. There have also been a series of introductions with the original intention of bringing other species under control, often with catastrophic consequences for the native species. Cane toads were introduced to Australia in the 1930s in order to keep pests in commercial sugarcane fields under control. However, cane toads are toxic, and this led to declines in some of the native predators. We've since learnt that introducing toxic species is not a good idea. Not all introductions, however, are intentional. A large number arise as a result of contamination of traded products. For example, numerous mosquito species have arrived in Europe through the used tyre trade, whereas rats, that are now found almost everywhere on Earth, originally hitchhiked their way there aboard boats from Asia. There are few places left on Earth untouched by non-native species. This is largely because there are few places untouched by people. In particular, areas with high population or significant amounts of trade are more likely to be invaded, simply because more species are likely to arrive and therefore have the opportunity to invade. Furthermore, areas with high human population are more likely to be disturbed. Physical disturbance by humans knocks back native species and creates opportunities for non-native species to establish and spread. Island ecosystems offer many opportunities for non-native species. Islands far from other landmasses are not yet fully stocked with species, simply because species have to arrive there naturally by the slow process of chance. If a species with a novel trait or behaviour is introduced to the island, it can have devastating consequences. The vast majority of extinctions for invasive species have taken place on islands. These are largely the result of novel predators exploiting naive island prey. Rats are a leading cause of extinctions of ground-nesting birds on islands, and cats can similarly have a devastating effect. But while mammals dominate the field of unwanted predators on island systems, they are not alone. The rosy wolf snail is a predatory snail, and while it will eat the African land snail, it really preferred in this case the smaller, tastier morsel of the Partula tree snails that are endemic to many of the Polynesian islands to which the rosy wolf snail was introduced. The result has been that many Partula snails are now extinct in the wild and known only in captivity, housed in a network of zoos. Invasive species do not only impact native species through predation. For example, in California, invasion by fire-promoting Eurasian grass species has led to an increased frequency of fire and a decline in the desert shrubland communities. Invasive species not only harm biodiversity, but they also negatively impact industry and ecosystem services delivery. Zebra mussels are native to the Ponto-Caspian region, but in North America and Western Europe, they clog pipes at great cost to industry. And eucalyptus, a very water-thirsty plant, draws down the water table and reduces water availability for both native plants and humans where it is invasive. Invasive species also include microorganisms that can cause disease. In the next video, you'll find out more about how disease poses another threat to biodiversity. Before that, test your knowledge in the quick learning check.